Okay. Now then, since the 1980s, Bernie Ecclestone has controlled Formula One. He's been the dominant force, and he's controlled it like his own personal fiefdom, his own personal train set, if you like. And wherever he goes, he courts controversy. And we thought it was about time, talking of controversy, that we sent Eddie to have a chat with him.
What's the current state of Formula One at the moment?
It's a bit difficult to get everybody to agree what needs to be done, and they all know what needs to be done. The problem we've got, Formula One's become a little bit too democratic. Everyone wants to be happy and pleased and nobody upset. But unfortunately, I think we've got past needing sticking plasters and we need an operation.
What needs to be done?
We need to really address seriously costs, because there's a lot of teams that have difficulty in trying to keep up with people. So it's no longer a competition between even engineers. It's between who can afford to do what.
You were vociferous in your condemnation of Manor. You didn't really want them there. You fined them $2 million for Australia.
No, we didn't find them anything. That company had an amount of money which is attributed to them for this year under certain conditions, and they unfortunately couldn't or didn't comply with all the conditions. They had no intention of racing.
Do you want them there?
Not particularly.
Bernie, Germany, we've lost a traditional race in our calendar. For me, a great loss. Let me give you my take on this. In the old days, Bernie, if there was 10 million short, you would have bought that 5 shortfall from somebody for 3, and you would have put your people in there and made that 3 into 15. Now, that's Bernie of old. Why didn't you do that this time?
Well, what Bernie of old did, because it's become very soft with all these
I can't
things.
believe a word of that.
We made a contribution to have that race in Germany by accepting 50% of the price of the contract. Still left them in trouble. This was a 1-year deal. So let's do that. Get yourself sorted out for next year.
In 5.5 years' time, you're going to be the magic age of 90. You've always promised us you'd leave us in a better position, i.e. Formula One, than it is at the moment. Where do you think we'll be in 5.5 years' time?
Better than we are now.
A lot better?
I just think we're going through a little bit of a dip now at the moment for 2 reasons. The most important thing is this engine, which costs a fortune. So a lot of these teams can't keep up with it. They're paying maybe 5 or 6 times more for an engine than they should.
You used to fix that. You would just tell the people what's going on. You know, you and Max would come in and that'd be the decision. Why can't you do that now?
Max isn't there.
Are you saying Todd can't do that?
He doesn't act like Max. Max speaks a lot of languages, he's super intelligent.
Well, let's presuppose that Renault bought Toro Rosso and Audi bought Red Bull.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
But Audi say they won't come in if you're there. What's the story behind all that?
I've no idea. Nobody's told me that, but if that is the case, I'll leave. So I'd be happy to step down immediately to bring those 2 people in, for sure.
But Bernie, you're being serious about that, are you?
Absolutely serious.
That's a big statement you've just made there.
Yeah, but it's true.
He always courts controversy. He made some strong statements there. What did you make of that interview?
Well, frank, as always. Confusing, as always.
Do you think we're in a dip?
Well, if we talk about we as Britain and BBC, I think that we're doing very well. But Formula One globally is clearly having some difficulties. But is it not just reflection of the global markets, the cycles that we go through, what manufacturers are involved, whether we're engaging with a particular nation, with having local drivers? The confusing thing, of course, is Germany, because they've got a manufacturer that's winning the World Championship. They've got a driver there that was competing for the world title last year. So I don't quite get that. But clearly we're talking about it, so there's something needs to be addressed. Well,
it's interesting, isn't it? Because the British television figures have stayed strong and the rest of Europe dipped. But actually now, Italy are going back up, Germany are going back up because of success of Ferrari, presumably in Italy, of course. So, it's sort of chicken and egg situation, isn't it, in terms of what drives what?
Well, it's quite clear, though. We've touched on this before. If you put things behind a paywall, then you're going to reduce your audience. Free-to-air is always going to be more popular. And those that are watching this show will know, just the controversy when we had the split event here. But I think that you need to have have the reach, you need to have the eyeballs to attract the sponsors. If you attract the sponsors, then the teams are well invested, and therefore they can continue to develop their cars. It's an expensive sport because of the technology that is there. And what's really made it so difficult for the teams is this new hybrid technology. They've gone from, you know, €5 million engines, which is a lot of money, of course, in the real world, to 25 million plus. That's a lot of money to find.
Yeah, it certainly is. It was also interesting the comments that he's made previously about Mana Marussia that we've discussed, and there he quite clearly doesn't want them to be in this championship, but he doesn't say why he doesn't want them to be in the championship. Eddie is down with Graham Loudon from Marussia, and he also, Eddie said, that he didn't find them in Melbourne. Could you clear that one up with Graham for us?
Well, I can do, Susie, but the thing I'm more interested in about the fine is money, of course. But the thing is, when somebody says they don't want you or they don't like you in the sport, you know, I'd like the person to have the right to reply to something like that. How do you reply to somebody like Bernie saying he doesn't really want you there?
I think, you know, with the greatest respect to Bernie, the most important thing is whether the fans want us there. And, you know, the message that we get loud and clear is that the fans want us. And I think, you know, the good thing is that both Bernie and our team have got the same objective. You know, we both want to contribute to Formula One. We want to contribute more, and I'm sure at the stage where Bernie feels we're contributing more, then he'll feel differently.
And is that the target? Are you going to try and prove him wrong because you are going to outperform himself on the track?
Well, you know, we're a racing team. It's our job to move forward. You know, we had a very, very difficult end to this season last year, as you know, and a difficult start in terms of preparation this year. But, you know, we're here. I think people were right to be sceptical ahead of Melbourne. But, you know, we're here to stay. And it's you know, you've run a team before. What do you do when you're here? You push forward. And so that's what we're doing. And we're pushing forward. And I'm sure that's what Bernie wants to see.
Graham, I've got to ask you this one question. Were you fined the $2 million after Australia or not? Because I asked Bernie that very same question, and he said it wasn't a fine.
Well, you know, we have a contract with Bernie's company. We fully expect to be paid what's due under the contract, and I think most teams are the same with that.
Have you been paid the money? That's what I need to know.
Well, as I said before, Eddie, you know, we fully expect to be paid what's due under the contract.
Did you satisfy all the clauses within that contract?
Well, I think you know, you could see that everything that could be done was done, and you know, and then the rest we'll sort out with Bernie.
Thank you very much, Graham.
You're welcome.
Still not quite certain about that, but presumably we'll find out towards the end of the season. But surely in Formula One we want more cars on the grid rather than less cars, because as a fan, when you're watching a race, you don't want to have big gaps between cars going around. You want to see some action, don't you?
Well, it's all about quality. If you look at Wimbledon tennis final, there's only two people in that, but it's a quality final.
But you don't want loads of empty courts, do you, is my point here. You know,
I have great sympathy for the difficulties of running Formula One teams, but if it was easy, we'd all be doing it, because this is the pinnacle of motorsport. But I absolutely believe you've got to have cars that are competitive within a certain percentage, and the difficulty that Marussia are going through right now is that they're basically running last year's car. Once they get up and running and they can develop that car, I'm sure they'll get closer. But it's not about just filling the grid with 30 cars. It's got to be quality cars. It's got to reflect the best of the best.
Of course, right. Let me just wander over, because I can see Deputy Team Principal of Williams, Claire Williams. Hello. You've been celebrating, I know it was Dad's birthday last week, wasn't it? So
I was wondering what you meant by celebrating. So all I can think about is racing. It was Dad's 73rd on Thursday, so we had a little celebration with the team yesterday, but Frank was thrilled, as you can imagine. He doesn't like that kind of attention.
Well, Claire, obviously we want you to be celebrating at the end of this race today. I want to ask you a question. We've been talking to Bernie about the state of Formula One, and he says he feels as though it's in a little bit of a dip. And you've been around Formula One, of course, all your life, but you've also worked with the commercial side of Formula One. Is it more difficult now for teams to find sponsors than it has been previously?
I don't think you can get away from that. It is, you know, but I think that there are a number of contributory factors to that. I think the economic climate is still in recovery. We're still feeling the aftermath of that. And then also there's so much competition for sponsorship dollars these days. It's really hard work when you're fighting against the social space, the digital space, so many other sporting properties and rights holders. You know, for us to be able to compete, it is hard work. But you know, everyone saw we did a great job over the winter. I shouldn't say great job.
Well, no, you've got sponsors.
We did an okay job, and you know, we brought in some really big names into the sport, which I'm really proud of. And as an independent team, we have to do that. We have to work really hard. Otherwise, we don't keep racing. It's as simple as that.
But when you're told things like you've got to pay for passes and everybody's got to have a photograph on a pass, you know, does it make it more difficult because you can't get so many people in the paddock?
Well, you know, there are a lot of reasons why these new procedures are in place, and we understand them. You know, it's a tough business trying to govern and operate Formula One, as, you know, the FOM group have to do. So we get it, we understand it. Yes, of course, it's difficult when the procedures change and we have to, you know, work around those. And we do, and people understand it, and it's fine. You know, we're here, we're racing, and that's the most important thing. And we're